Hey guys, Mike from Wrestling Then and Now. Thanks so much for checking out the YouTube channel and for all your support. If you haven't already, please click subscribe. I have so much content coming up. You don't want to miss anything. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like. It really does help my channel grow. Thanks again.
Talk to me about the last Nitro. Like, what was it like for you? Who did you talk to? Did you get offered anything? Like, what was the actual last Nitro experience like for you?
Yeah. So the last Nitro, it was very odd. I'm sure you've heard before, but we walk in and there's a sign that says WCW this way, WWE this way, and I thought it was a rib. So I was like, "What? Who did this? Who did this nonsense?" Like just trying to figure out who did it. But then whenever they all showed up in catering, and we had a meeting in there, and it became real. Whenever you seen them sitting there, it's like, okay, like this is real. My first, I was scared to death, man, because I was so young, and I finally had made it, and I was like, damn, what does this mean? Like I'm a smaller guy because, like, define the odds of making it being 140, 150 pounds at that point. I was like, shit, man, like I've already WWE's the land of the giants. Like, are they going to take the cruiserweights there? Like, what is this? And I was on the last show, so
Mhm.
I worked that night. That made me a little bit more comfortable being on the show because I knew, like, I figured, like, if you're not on the show, it's probably bad. Or if I would have got
Right.
pulled off the show, like, that's probably bad news. Um, but we did the show. They didn't really give us much information. They just said that we'll be contacting you. And, I was flying home the next day. Like everybody pretty much said their goodbyes that night and we didn't know if we'd see each other again. And it's like, shit, okay. So I'm flying home. I'm going, well, I got a house. I got all this shit that I bought because, 18, 19 years old. It's what you do. You buy the cool shit. And I was like, how am I going to pay for this stuff? Like if I get fired. But luckily, they did roll my contract over, and I ended up in HWA, for a few months till I got pulled up to TV.
And the way that WCW um, showed off their cruiserweight division was a lot different than the way the WWF did. WCW, that was a big part of their show. It felt like WWE cruiserweights are kind of there to put the bigger guys over. But yeah, that was probably scary for you as well. The fact that you didn't even know how they were going to treat the cruiserweights when they brought them over.
Yeah, especially because we were the go-to guys in WCW. I felt like we'd established ourselves. Me, Shane, and Evan and the Young Dragons. It was like if they needed a hot segment, entertaining segment, Johnny Ace would always come to us and go, "Hey kids, like, you got 10 minutes. Like, we need entertainment. Do whatever you got to do. Like give us a car crash, whatever you could do." So I felt like we had established, we'd arrived, in WCW, and I just didn't know what it looked like, and then I had to go to HWA, and I was told that I was going to help train people, and I tell my fiance at the time, I walk out. Well, I'll back up a second. So somebody was going to book me on a tour with Blue Meanie and Jasmine St. Clair in Europe. And I was just sitting home, I was home for a couple months after that last Nitro. And I called JR and I'm like, hey man, I'm just sitting around. Like I need some ring time. Like I don't want to get rusty. Is it okay if I go on this tour? And he's like, well, give me a few minutes. Let me talk to somebody and then I'll get back to you. And I was like, okay. So he gives me a call back and he's like, hey, you can't do the tour. He goes, because we're going to send you up to Cincinnati. HWA's just, we're opening that up there. It's a developmental territory. Memphis is shutting down. And all the Memphis guys like Charlie Haas, Umaga, all those Steve Bradley, all those guys were going to go to Cincinnati. And he's like, we want you to go up there and just, help train some guys or do whatever till we pull you up for TV. It should be but a couple of weeks. So I'm like, all right, that's cool. Um, packed a bag for 2 weeks and jumped in my car, drove to Cincinnati and stayed there about a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was it Monday through Friday training school, weekends, shows? Like, what was it?
Yeah, it was. It That's where I learned how to work. Um, and whenever I say work, psychology, you know, I knew the basic fundamentals of psychology, from obviously like training and all that stuff. But Les Thatcher, man, like that dude, just working, man. Like we'd train. I'd get there at 9 a.m. in the morning. We'd train for 3-4 hours. We probably had, you know, I don't know, 4 shows a week, something like that. And then we'd film TV down in Louisville, and it was just wrestling, man. Like just I did thousands of matches that year. Like it was insane how many matches I had under my belt that year. And now I think about that now, and like Les Thatcher, he just he's old school, man, and he would work with me and would watch tapes, and like he would break stuff down that old school way. And like I love that dude to death. Like I got so much respect for Les, and the knowledge that he was able to share with me. And I got comfortable like just wrestling. Like I could go out there. By the time I was done there, I could go in there with anybody, not talk about a thing. And so for me, that's where I feel like my career like took that next step. And I got the knowledge that like I should have got years before if I would have went through like a really good training school, and a school that would like have you working every day. But
Right.
you know how that is. Like we were self-trained pretty much. We met a few people that could share this, share that with you, and you just do it your way. And then whenever it comes to anything, whether it's wrestling, jiu-jitsu, like these basics and this psychology, like if you don't study it and you don't really on in on it, like it's not, you just don't get it. And I feel like that's where I got the most growth at that year.
Who called you up?
It's actually Johnny. Yeah, Johnny called me. Jamie Noble, we'd had this guy named Chad Collier. We were killing it, man. We had some really good cruiserweight, like, um, you know, best of 7 matches and stuff like that. And finally, they ended up going to shut down HWA for whatever reason. And then, probably 6 months before they shut it down, Johnny called me and he's like, "Hey kid, we're going to pull you up on the road." I'm like, "All right, cool. Sounds good. Can I go home now?" So that was sweet, right? To be able to go back home.